Sunday. It turned out the whole camp was early to bed, early to rise. We didn't even need to set our alarm clocks because our neighbors let us know it was time to get up. Believe it or not, some guy was doing wood carvings at his campsite. I wanted to give him a piece of my mind, but when I saw the chainsaw, I figured maybe I could let it slide this one time. After Dad got out of bed, he started cooking pancakes and eggs on the griddle. Mom was just getting back from the bathhouse and she gave me the scoop on how things worked up there. She said you had to pay for the shower with quarters and gave me a few. Then she told me that I needed to stop by the laundromat and move our clothes from the washer to the dryer. I really didn't like the idea of taking a shower in a public building. When you live in a house with your family, the bathroom is the only place you can get any privacy. So when I'm in there, I'm in my own little world. And once that door's locked, I can do anything I want. Are you almost done in there? Jiggle. I'm flossing! But sometimes I get myself in trouble in the bathroom. Once I almost broke my ribs when I was pretending to be Spider-Man in the shower. Gah! Slide. When I arrived at the bathhouse, the line was already wrapped around the building, and I got to know my fellow campers a little better than I wanted to. Scritch, scritch. I figured the line would split at the entrance, and guys would go one way and girls would go the other. But it turns out this place doesn't have those kinds of boundaries. I found that the reason the wait was so long was because there were only 3 shower stalls inside. When it was finally my turn, I put the quarter in the coin slot on the stall door, and Dad got the shower going. The hot water felt good, especially since I hadn't had a hot shower in a few days. But I couldn't really enjoy it since the stalls only went so high. I closed my eyes and tried to pretend I was by myself, but that was kind of hard to do when the person in the next stall started getting chatty. Is that raspberry soap shampoo? Sniff, sniff. I decided to wrap things up and get out of there, but the shower stopped before I had a chance to rinse the shampoo out of my hair. Ding. It turns out 1 quarter only paid for 3 minutes of hot water. I tried to hand the next person in line a quarter to put in the slot, but I couldn't get his attention. Dig, dig. So I stepped out of the shower to put the coin in myself, but I guess that was just the opportunity this guy was waiting for. Zip. And what really stunk was when he started using my shampoo. Rattle, rattle. I didn't feel like getting in an argument with a naked guy, so I left. But some soap suds got in my eye and I could barely see where I was going. Luckily, I found my way to the laundromat where there was a sink, and that water was free. Once I finished rinsing the shampoo out of my hair, I started looking for our clothes. But someone had taken them out of the washing machine and dumped them on the floor so they could put their clothes in. After I put our clothes in the dryer, I decided I was going to stick around the washing machines and find out who dumped our stuff on the floor when they came back to get theirs. But when I saw who it was, I thought maybe I could let things slide one more time. When I got back to our campsite, all I wanted to do was crawl back into bed. But Mom said we were all going down to the lake and I needed to put on my bathing suit. I reminded her that I didn't have a bathing suit anymore, and I was hoping that would get me off the hook. But Mom said Roderick had a spare, even though I'm not a fan of wearing someone else's clothes. I knew there was no point in debating her about it. I figured if we splashed around the lake for a few minutes and acted like we were having a good time, Mom would be satisfied and let us go back to camp. But she brought her camera with her, and that always complicates things. This summer, Mom's been spending a lot of time on social media, and whenever she sees how perfect her friends' families look, it makes her jealous. So Mom always puts us in these awkward poses to make it look we're having a good time too. But there must be something wrong with my family because we can never get our act together. Bzz, ack! The lake looked calm and peaceful when we first saw it from the bridge, but today it was a whole different scene. I was expecting the lake to be clear like the one at the fish hatchery, but it looked dirty to me, and that's probably because people weren't just using it for swimming. Brush, brush. Scrub, scrub. I saw people were acting kind of nuts at the pool yesterday, but at the lake it was at a whole different level. So was a rope swing attached to a big tree that went out over the water, but it wasn't planning on using that thing unless it rained for a few days first. So was some rafts floating in the middle of the lake, and I thought about grabbing one, but I changed my mind when I saw how people were using them. Oof! So was a ramp at the bottom of a big hill by the lake, and I couldn't tell what it was for. But my question got answered when some kid launched himself into the water inside a tractor tire. Mom wanted us all to swim, but I was still pretty scarred from my last experience in a lake. Plus, I don't trust any water when I can't see through. So was something weird sticking up in the middle of the lake, and I pointed it out to Dad. He said it was probably just a branch, but it didn't look like a branch to me. And when you can only see a part of something, it could be anything. Nobody else was in the mood to swim either, so we put our stuff down on the ground. But it turned out the lake shore isn't the same as a beach shore, and within a few seconds, we were sinking in the muck. Pat, pat. Mom said we weren't going back to our campsite until we did something fun. There was a canoe tied up to the dock, and she said we should take it out on the water. I was fine with being on top of the water, so long as we didn't have to go in it. We took turns getting into the canoe, which wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. I stayed low, just like Dad told me to. Roderick didn't though, and we almost capsized while we were still tied to the dock. Step. Gah! After we were all in the canoe, we put on life jackets and paddled out on the water. But some people swimming nearby seemed like they were in a hurry to get out of our way. Then we found out why. As soon as we got to the middle of the lake, something big landed right next to our canoe, and a second later there was another splash. Sploosh. Some teenagers up on the hill had turned a hammock into a giant slingshot, and they were using us for target practice. I guess that explained why no one was using the canoe. We tried to paddle back to the dock, but the guys on the hill were getting more and more accurate with each shot. Fling! Splash. I guess Roderick didn't want to get hit, so he decided to abandon ship. And that was a problem for the rest of us, because now we were unbalanced. Sploosh! Our canoe capsized, and somehow me and Dad ended up underneath it. At first I thought it was a good thing, since we were protected from those watermelons. But I changed my mind when we took a direct hit, because it was like being on the inside of a drum. Clong. Me and Dad ditched the canoe and swam for the dock, and we have to move fast, because now we were out of range, so the guys on the hill were skipping their shots. Splish. We pulled ourselves onto the dock, where we were safe. Mom was upset because her camera was ruined, but I didn't really want my picture taken right at that moment anyway. Pant, 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 pant,